everybody, my name is Dave, thanks for joining me on the channel, and unfortunately the video camera recorded everything in slow motion. So what I'm going to do is talk you through it. So what are we doing here? We've got the Tech 2, it's out of the driver's window, and we're going to do a click test on the injectors. Now unfortunately, because of the slow motion, there's no audio, you can't hear the click test, but there was no clicks on Injector 2. And when I actually took the rocker cover off and did this test again, there was very faint clicks on Injector 4. So Injector 4 seemed to be alright, it was Injector 2 that had failed. So what I'm doing here now is I'm getting my cable clamp harness, removing the hoses, and now I'm taking off the intercooler bolts that hold the intercooler on. There's 4 of those, 2 on this side, 2 on the other. The big problem with slow motion is it exaggerates everything. Every little mistake you make gets exaggerated because you can see it clearly. Okay, I'm round at the other side taking the other 2 bolts out now. You can see I've removed those 2 bolts. Okay, we're lifting off the intercooler. Take it off the turbo pipe first, then pull it off the other side, the intake into the manifold pipe. Now I'm taking off the intercooler mounting bracket at this side. There's 2 bolts hold this on. And there we are, removing it. Now we're taking off the clamp hoses for the catch can and the vacuum hose that runs up from down below on the map sensor. As you can see, it's stuck, it's dried up and stuck, so I'm going to pull it off with a pair of pliers, but I do eventually get that off. There you go. And now we're doing the little interconnecting hose that joins across the top of the rocker cover. We have to remove this because the pipe gets in the way of the head when you're removing it. Now we're taking the plastic cover off the rocker, the plastic cover, then the sponge cover underneath. What you've got to be careful of is when you put this plastic cover back on, that you must remember you've to put the high pressure pipe on first, because this plastic cover is a pain to get on, and once it's on you can't get the intercooler pipe back on, you can't get into tighten it up for anything. So the best thing to do is put that back on first, and the high pressure oil pipe, and then put the plastic cover on. What I'm doing here is I'm removing the nuts from the pipe mount at the back and the washer that holds it down. And that's me taking the pipe off. There you go, that's the equalising pipe. Now we're removing the air intake hose from the turbo end and from the air intake box end. And you loosen it off, do the rest by hand, and pull the pipe clamp back onto the airbox pipe, like so. Then we go down the other side. I think it's a 10mm socket to remove the clamp off the other side. And there we go, we're going to remove the pipe off the airbox. There we go, and then we just remove it off the other end at the turbo, and then we get rid of that pipe out of the way. Now we can get the plastic cover off the top of the rocker cover. It's a bit fiddly. It's especially fiddly to get back on. It's either half on or it's on. It's never anything in between, and of course I was very lucky with that washer then, look. Retrieved that washer before it fell off. No chance of that going in the engine, of course, but catastrophic if you drop a bolt or a washer into the top and it goes down into the sump. Sump off job to get the bolt out if it drops through. There's the sponge cover that sits underneath the plastic cover. I think that's a bit of a sound deadening, something like that. Some people don't bother with this. I like to put it on. I think it's there for a reason, so it goes on my car. Now we've got the 27mm open ender, and we're removing the high pressure oil pipe from the rocker cover and from the pump at the bottom, from the valve at the bottom that has a now a big nasty black engine oil in there, so you've got to take that off. Now we're doing the rocker cover bolts. Remember that these bolts are terrible. If you get them wrong, they'll shear. They'll just shear off the threads, and you'll have to helicoil them. Most of mine are helicoiled now. Now the problem here is that the gasket sticks because of the RTV. Now I've got the Tech 2 again, and what I'm doing here is I've disconnected all of the injectors, and I'm now cleaning out the injector harnesses, the plug for the injector harness, just in case that makes any difference. That gets oil in it, that can interfere with the signals from the ECU and cause a misfire to look like it's an injector, but it turned out to be the injector was broken. So what I'm doing here is I'm testing out spare injectors, doing the click test again, and I have 4 or 5 spare injectors at work, but they're all really quiet. But when I spoke to Rob, he said he basically thinks that quiet's fine, and as it turns out, it is fine. The little screwdriver's there just to lever up the oily lever that holds the injector plug in place. What I'm showing you there is the fact that the copper washer is still on the bottom of the new injectors. That has to be replaced. You need to replace that. So what we're doing now is we're removing the 2 Allen bolts that hold the injector to the oil rail, and now we're just using a lever to free off the injector. Now I've got the 2 bolts out, and there it goes. That's all you need. Once you've got it to there, you can reach in and pull it out, and the injector will be pretty black. And what you don't want at this point is oil to run down that hole, that injector sleeve, and hydrolock your piston. So we put a cloth in there to stop that happening. You can see oil running down the sides of it if you look, but I'm not going to show you that here. So there's the injector. You can see there's quite a bit of carbon buildup. Looks like there's an O-ring around the copper there, but it's a carbon buildup at the copper O-ring, the copper washer. I'm going to give it a bit of a clean. And here I'm showing you the new seals. So that's the new seal to the oil rail. That's the new seal for inside the injector sleeve, and that's the new copper washer sitting on the bottom. Now you'll see that the copper washer is loose. So dielectric grease is what I used on there to keep that in place while I put it in, because what you don't want to happen is that to turn over and be upside down. Now I did have to take the injector out once I got it in because I didn't quite line it up properly, and that copper washer stayed in, but as long as it's the right way up, you can use it again. As long as the copper washer is the correct way up. Now I'm showing you down into the bottom of the bar here where the copper washer sits. You can see it's pretty dirty in there. That has to be cleaned out. You can't put a copper washer in when it's dirty. So that got cleaned out. I didn't actually show it clean, but you can see it's pretty grotty down there. I used a long screwdriver and some cloth cleaned it out down the bottom. I'm just inspecting in there now. And there you go, I'm reinserting the new injector. Wrong way around I might add, so I'm turning it round 180 until it won't go into place, because there's a flat bit where the O-ring is that fits onto the high pressure oil rail, which is the big pipe behind the injectors there. All I'm doing here is just tapping the injector into so it seats into the sleeve, and then the rest of it, the video, is just me putting everything back together and running the car.